Hola a todos y bienvenidos otra vez a nuestra lección de español. Hoy vamos a aprender el género y el número de las palabras en español, que es algo muy importante para hablar en este idioma maravilloso. Welcome everyone to another of our great Spanish lessons where we're going to learn this wonderful language. So today we're going to learn the most important rule in this language, which is agreeing in gender and number. In English, we do not have this rule, but in Spanish, in Italian, French, and any other Romance language, what we do, we have to determine the gender of what we are talking about and agree with the number, which is singular or plural. So let's go ahead and let's see what this rule entails. First, we're going to go ahead and learn the terminology, la terminología, ¿qué es? ¿Qué es un sustantivo? Es una persona, un lugar o una cosa. ¿Qué es un artículo? Hay dos artículos en español, lo mismo en inglés, hay los artículos definidos y los artículos indefinidos, que en inglés son the y a and an. Pero las reglas son muy diferentes y los usos también. So let's go ahead and let's see what's a noun. So a noun is a person, a place, a thing, an idea, right? And then we have what's an article. We have two different types of articles. They're definite and indefinite. It's equal to your English the, a, and an, but of course rules are different. The uses of them are the same. So we will use the whenever something is really definite. And if something is generalized, we will use a and an. But again, in English, you only have one definite article, which is the, but in Spanish, we'll have 4 different forms. And we will go ahead and learn why we have these 4 different forms. And for the definite articles, in English, you use a and an, whether it's a consonant or a vowel. But in Spanish, again, we will have 4 of them. And why? Because we must agree in gender and number, that género y número of which we were talking about. So again, ¿qué significa el número de un sustantivo? So what is this number when we keep on talking? Is it 1, 2, 3? No, it's singular and plural. We will use a singular when we're talking about one item, one person, one idea, and the plural whenever it's 2 or more, right? So let's keep on going. So, ¿por qué es importante? ¿Por qué es importante aprender esta regla aquí? Porque si no, no podemos hablar en español, ¿sí? Why is it so important? Everyone says, why? Well, because if we do not comprehend the logic behind this rule, we will not be able to speak in Spanish. So again, all nouns in Spanish have a gender, whether it's masculine or feminine. The articles, and later on when we're going to learn the adjectives, the other demonstratives, possessives, we will see that they have to always match. So we're going to learn the rule and always keep in mind that there will be exceptions, okay? So here we have the list of el género, and they are divided in masculino y femenino. So, but let's go ahead and let's just get familiar with these genders and the rules. So in Spanish, the majority of words that end with an O, when I say the majority of them, because just keep in mind that there are exceptions. So the majority of words that end in O, they are masculine. Entonces, la mayoría de palabras que terminan en O en el idioma español son siempre masculino. Después, hay palabras que terminan en A y la mayoría de esas palabras son siempre femenina. And the majority of words that in Spanish will end in A, they are assumed always to be feminine. So, do we have other endings? Of course we do. Hay palabras que terminan en or y ma y son masculina, y hay palabras que terminan en ora y ista y son siempre femenina. So then we have some exceptions where we're not going to look at the ending, but we're going to at the ending of the vowel, but we're going to look at the syllable. So words that end in or in Spanish are always masculine. Words that end in ora, they're always feminine. And then of course we have ista, that they could be both, and then the gender is determined by the article. So let's go ahead and let's see. So for instance, we have words like ending in o. We have el chico, el pasajero, and then other words that are not listed, of course. We have el carro, we have el cuchillo, we have el cuaderno, el libro, then we have ending in or, so el conductor, el profesor. Now, if you look at these ones here, they're matched with their feminine. So we have la conductora, la profesora. So keep in mind that whenever we're talking about titles, relationships, anything related to a person, remember that in Spanish, we'll always have a masculine and a feminine version. And we're going to look at this a little bit more. Then we have words that we don't really need to look at the ending, like these ones here above, like el hombre y la mujer, which one means man and one means woman. So of course, one will be masculine by default and the other one will be feminine. And then we have, for instance, el turista y la turista. So we will have words like turista, we'll have words like estudiante, we have words like cantante, we will have words like modelo, where you cannot really say if it's a definite masculine or if it's a definite feminine. Why? Because the article will determine the gender. So just like in this case, el turista is a male tourist, la turista is a female tourist. Estudiante means student. So if it's a male student, we will say el estudiante. And if it's a female student, we will say la estudiante. And we will go ahead and look at what are these words, el, la, that I'm mentioning. Here we have some other nouns. So I'm just going to read them for pronunciation purposes. Entonces aquí hay algunas palabras que son masculina y femenina y las voy a leer, así que puedan oír la pronunciación de la palabra, ¿ok? Hay el cuaderno y voy a leerlas más despacio. Aquí pueden repetir las palabras conmigo, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read these words for pronunciation purposes, and I'm going to read them slow, so if you want, you can actually repeat. So we have el cuaderno, we have el diario, el diccionario, el número, el video, el problema, el programa, el autobús, el país, la computadora, and just one little note. Some of you have been asking me, so what's the difference between Latino, Hispanic, and Spaniard? And what is the Spanish of the Americas that we're learning and Spanish Castilian? Well, for instance, this is a perfect example, la computadora. For instance, me growing up, for computer, I always use ordenador. Ordenador and computadora, they mean the same exact thing. It's a computer. But again, if you hear the words, la computadora is feminine. El ordenador, which still means computer, is masculine. So they both mean the same thing, but they're used in different countries. So it's really a different use of words, right? Then we have la cosa, la escuela, la maleta, la palabra, la lección, la conversación, la nacionalidad, la nacionalidad. And the last one is la comunidad. La comunidad. I will just teach you a little trick. So in Spanish, anything that ends in ción is equal to your English shon. So for instance, conversación is conversation. Nación is nation. Anything that ends in dad, D-A-D, or T-A-D, it's equal to your T-Y. So nacionalidad is nationality. Comunidad is community, and going on. Entonces, para resumir, so what have we learned so far? So the general rules of this gender, so masculine and feminine. So again, anytime a word ends in O is masculine. Anytime a word ends in OR or MA is masculine. We do have some exceptions. The majority of words that end in A are always feminine. And then we have the ending. We have ra, yon, dad, y tad that are not here. Then when we have words that refer to titles, profession, people, relationships, they will always have a masculine and a feminine. And if they end in e or ista, or even other endings, we will use the article to determine the gender. The exceptions. We do have many exceptions. But again, they will be learned little bit by little, right? So for instance, we have dia. Dia ends with an A, but it's actually masculine. Mapa ends with an A, but it's actually masculine. Mujer, of course, we already said it. Mujer, if it means woman, it's by default feminine. Then we have mano. Mano is hand, but it ends with an O. So it's feminine. So you will say, how do we know that's masculine or feminine? The article will tell, but also other elements will help you. Now, I want you to think back for 1 second at a greeting, the first greeting that you ever learned, right? Buenos días, or buenas tardes, or also buenas noches. Have you looked at the difference? Buenos días, buenas noches, buenas tardes. Well, there's a reason why we say buenos días. There's a reason why we say buenas tardes y buenas noches. Because día is masculine, so we're matching, right? Tarde y noche, they're feminine, so we're matching. And we're going to learn a little bit about this, a little bit more about this, okay? El número, singular y plural. En español, para cambiar una palabra del singular al plural, tenemos que usar la S. Si la palabra termina en una vocal, pero si la palabra termina con una consonante, tenemos que usar ES. ES. So, how do we make words plural in the Spanish language? Really, really easy. We already know that la mayoría de las palabras en español terminan con una vocal. We already know that all the words in Spanish, they end with a vowel because we follow the consonant vowel rule of the syllables. So we're going to add an S. But if we have a word that does not end with an O, doesn't end with an A, nor an E, but it ends with a consonant, so in order to make the word flow, we will add an ES. Then we have some exceptions, for instance, with words that end with a Z. If a word in the singular ends with a Z, before you actually add the ending, you must switch the Z and change it to a C. Once you switch the Z to the C, again, this is for sound purposes. Then, since it's a consonant, we will add an ES. Something also very important is the accent marks. We will learn how to use the accent marks very soon. So usually what happens whenever we have a word in the singular that has an accent mark on the last syllable, when we change that word in the plural and we add an extra letter or 2 letters, like in the case of autobús, are you noticing that there's an accent mark on the U? If we are changing autobús in the plural, it ends with an S, so we will add ES. By us adding ES, we're adding an extra syllable. So the accent mark disappears. In our next lesson, we're going to learn a little bit more about the accent marks so you understand better. So, ¿qué tenemos que hacer para hablar en español? So, we have to agree on gender and number. And how do we do that? So, first we have to identify the gender and the number. Masculino, femenino, singular o plural. We look at the word. And then we have to match it with the definite or the indefinite article. Aquí hay una lista de los artículos. So there's a list. So these are the 4 articles that are the definite articles. El, la, los, las. They all mean the. But again, how do we match them? El will be placed in front of words that are singular masculine. La will be placed in front of words that are singular feminine. Los will be placed in front of words that are plural masculine. And las would be placed in front of words that are plural feminine. So for instance, if I have libro, right? Libro, book. Libro ends with a no, it's masculine. So I will say el libro, the book. If I have a word like silla, like chair, ends with an A. So I will say la silla. If I have libros, right, books, I would say los libros, the books. And if I have a word like puertas, doors, I would say las puertas. Then we have the indefinite article. We have un, una, unos, y unas. We already know that we should not have a plural because something is generalized, right? But again, in Spanish, you will always have plurals, even for a logic that does not exist in English. So un y una means a and n, and unos y unas means some and few. So un will be placed in front of words that are singular masculine. Una will be placed in front of words that are singular feminine. Unos will be placed in front of words that are masculine plural. And unas will be placed in front of words that are, if you said feminine plural, great job. So, un libro, una ventana, unos amigos, unas puertas. Aquí hay unos ejemplos, como ya he compartido antes. So here we have some examples. So here we have the definite articles that we got familiar in the previous slide. Here we have the indefinite articles, right? So first we look at the noun, we identify the gender and the number. Then we choose whether we want to use a definite or indefinite article. It's really whatever you want to say. So let's go with universidad. Universidad ends in dad, right? If we go in the previous chart, it's feminine, it's singular. So I will be able to use la una. La universidad, the university. Una universidad, a university. I want the plural. I will say las universidades and unas universidades. Let's go with marcador. Marcador is masculine. How do I recognize it? It ends in or. So it's masculine singular. I will use el or un and los y unos for the plural. And then since it ends with an R, I will add an ES. Montañas. Okay, let me look at it. It ends with an S, so it's feminine plural. So las y unas, and if I want the singular, la and una montaña. Programa. I know it ends with an A, but don't be tricked. It's actually masculine because it ends in ma. So it's masculine singular. I will be able to use el o un, whether I want to say the program or a program. And the plural will be los programas or unos programas. Señores. Señores means sir, so of course it's masculine. And we know it's plural, so los o unos. And the singular will be el señor or un señor. So our next lesson will be about adjectives, will be about the verbo ser, los números, and more. I hope you enjoy this lesson y nos vamos a ver la próxima vez. Adiós a todos.